Bow down before my psycho power.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about a little bit of Kazuya, a little bit of balancing, a little bit of Tekken 8, but we're going to be talking about how that's changing with some of the things that's being done currently in the game. You know, they did 2 updates in Season 3, and they did one after, and those updates kind of shook things up just enough to where the meta has evolved. You no longer see Anna played every tournament. Thank you for that, because that whole year of Season 2, Anna all over the place, terrible. You're starting to see the rise of characters that no one expected. Most notably is Kazuya Mishima. Now, before we dive deep into the conversation, first subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 40,000 subscribers, but then also I want to show you guys a couple of tier lists. This is one that Arslan and Joka made. Now, this is before the update that they did where they kind of changed things a little bit further. So this is just kind of like a guideline of like what generally is out there, right? It's a little bit outdated, but you can see where Kazuya is at. He's kind of in the dead middle of the pack. And all of these characters in this A section are all like blurred together. They're all relatively the same power level. Depending on who's making the tier list, a character will be higher, a character will be lower, over here, over there. But really all of this middle section is just like one chunk. The only real separation you can have is like the top level, like the top like 10, top 7, and then the bottom few characters. That's the real separation that you could create. And then you have a similar thing here with the tier list made by Fighting Gym. Once again, notice Kazuya in the middle of the pack, and then once again, you have a very similar type of characters all hovering around that section. Now, the debate about whether or not Kazuya is powerful, weak, low tier, top tier, strong, has been going on since the start of Tekken 8. Like, I remember in the beta when Kazuya had, I believe it's down 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. Basically, it's the string that you could do at the wall. That move in the beta did so much damage, like 50, 40, 60, I don't know, it was crazy. And I remember even at the time, Main Man was a little bit upset about how powerful he was. And the developers obviously listened and they brought Kazuya down a little bit. And some people felt like he's too weak. You don't really see him in tournaments. You don't really see him played at a high level. You only really see the loyalists play him. And at times, even those guys get sick of it because you see like Kunan's put out a tweet where he's like, I don't like Kazuya. Or you see like a legendary Kazuya main switch off. So he's been kind of in a weird spot, definitely overshadowed by a lot of the people who play other characters, right? Dragunov had a very great time in Tekken 8. Anna, Lydia has been dominant for almost 2 years. Brian Fury has been fearsome. There's been a lot of characters who's just been very dominant, and Kazuya hasn't really got that opportunity to shine. And as a result, some players feel like he's very weak. He needs buffs. He needs this. He needs that. What I always think is super interesting about the conversation of what do you do for Kazuya, when you ask a Kazuya main, they either give you the most wild answer possible or they give you like a really good change that could probably make him a little bit stronger. But the argument is does he need it? Every character is too strong and needs nerfs in some category. Even the weakest characters in the game, like Devil Jin, Kazuya, whoever you want to say, the same thing kind of applies to them. And it makes sense that so many players will have so many ideas because when you look at the statistics of the game currently, Kazuya is the most played character in the game by a healthy margin. Second place is Jin Kazama, and Kazuya has a whole 1.3% over Jin Kazama. So you can see how many people play this guy, how many people love this guy, and you can see why the conversation of how powerful Kazuya is one that's like never ending, it's prevalent, and it's kind of continuous in its nature. What really shook up the conversation around Kazuya Mishima was 2 things, 2 players, 2 tournaments. And I'll read from my tweet. Akari made history being the first player ever to win a TWT tournament with Kazuya Mishima. Now, this is a little bit of typo. I meant by Tekken 8 standards, right? In Tekken 7, I believe some people did it maybe once, maybe twice. But in Tekken 8, he was the first person to do it, which once again is a huge like achievement because Tekken 8, Kazuya hasn't been doing so well. He hasn't won anything. He hasn't been performing. Usually when you see people use him, they probably put on a great performance, but then the player eventually gets a read on their hell sweeps, a read on their timing, and then cook them. But this time around, it was different. And then also, literally 2 days after, Kaisuke did an incredible thing with Kazuya tournament. Once again, I'll read the tweet that I made. Kaisuke, another legendary player, has won the TWT tournament. Kazuya has now won the first 2 tournaments of the Tekken World Tour 2026. Now, these 2 victories starting off Tekken 8 was incredible. Throughout the comment section of this, you heard a lot of people saying like, now we're back, right? Like, look at this one. This game has molded Kazuya into demons, having to go through all of the nonsense fighting ridiculous characters and adapting to that. Now the garbage is getting nerfed, so skill is taking back over. this is Tekken. And there's a little bit of truth there, right? All of the garbage that other characters have is kind of being reduced. And you're seeing the players, you're seeing the pro players and the people who only play strong things. They're trying to find like new ways to play. You know, a lot of people gravitating towards Victor. Maybe you're still on Brian. But in general, all of the stuff is coming down. And if the next update, if that continues to do so, we're really going to start seeing skill dominate. Like I was seeing people say, you know, with the most recent update that they did, that, you know, small tech and a little bit of patience, a little bit of footsies, a little bit of that stuff, neutral is kind of what is dominating matchups now. And it would make sense that, you know, more technical characters, more, you know, character loyalists are starting to do much better. We saw Kane and Trich, a Yoshimitsu loyalist. He won the tournament just recently. Now we'll see how this continues to shake up. A lot of other characters getting nerfed. Hopefully King drops, hopefully Law drops, Lydia, Harang, hopefully a lot of characters drop. But if they do so, will we start to see Kazuya go even more on a rampage? Will the conversation around that character change? It already is kind of changing, where people are saying no more downplay. That's what people were telling Main Man. Main Man said that he still thinks Kazuya is very weak, and he just really associate the victories to the players, not necessarily the character. But if the trend continues, right, if characters continue to get nerfed, if the players continue to perform well, we will have a different meta on our hands. Now, another thing that I want to show you guys, because this is really interesting as well, is like, so like I said, Akari has won Evo Japan. First time a Kazuya player has done that in Tekken 8. Akari is a legendary player. He proved his skill. I think he said 20 years of experience. He knows what he's doing. But players in discovering who he is, you know, not too many people knew who he was. They started to look up his you know, his Liquipedia. They started to look up his Tekken 8 stats, and a lot of people were surprised to see that he only has 68 defense. And this brought up a different type of conversation with Tekken 8, and I'll read this tweet here that highlighted it. It says Evo Japan 2026 champion has 68 defense stats. Then peeps here say that the profile stats show real player skill and judge other players based on this calculation. Calculations of this is surely not based on your fundamentals, but the current most played character by your rank and its play style. You have another tweet here that's looking at the same chart from Akari, and this one says Akari won with a 68 defense rating. Yeah, I don't believe nothing the Tekken chart says anymore. I remember when I made a video about this in season 2, and it was a short. It was titled like Tekken 8 defense stats are worthless. It doesn't matter. It's pointless. And at the time when I said that, a lot of people was like, lol, of course the Yoshi main with 60 defense would say that. Like, nice try, buddy. We know that the Tekken developers really manipulated the way that the game works in terms of ranks, in terms of, you know, how high players are able to climb. And it would make sense that they would do a similar thing with the stats as well. The Tekken 7 stats, you were really able to look at and judge the player's skill based on that. But with Tekken 8, it doesn't really seem to be the case anymore. You just have so many top players who have 68 defense. You do have a lot of people with god stats, but once again, we don't know how that is happening. We don't know how one pro who could win a tournament could have 60 defense, and then another pro who hasn't won no tournaments could have like 90 defense. It just is not a clear, concise understanding. And then also one thing about the stat pentagon that we know is that it's not taking into consideration your whole entire journey as a Tekken player. It's only looking at the last couple of games that you played, and it's only looking at like the most recent character that you played. And that's why the numbers shift so much. Sometimes you look at your stats and the number says a 7, the next time you go back it says a 2, it says a 16. It's like, it's so fluctuating because it's like not a true metric of the skill. And really, this website that we have here is a great website, but with the developers hiding so much about how a lot of this stuff works, using this as a metric to judge skill just doesn't work, because we've seen what Akari could do. There's a Japanese player. He is the top rated Eddie player in Japan, and his defense stats is worse than what Akari has. And I see more and more where players are no longer using this as a judgment of the skill. But when you talk about the character Kazuya Mishima, I am interested to see how this character continues to perform deep into the tournament. Will the conversation of balance change a little bit? Will Kazuya Mishima rise up the tier list, or will he not?